Ever feel like you're drifting apart in your relationship? Today, we're talking about why that happens and how to make sure you're growing together, not apart. Stick around because we've got the tips you need to stay connected. Stay tuned.
Hey, Mr. Friends, welcome back to the Blissology Podcast,
where we break down everything related to love, marriage, and relationships with the goal of creating more bliss and less stress.
That's right. I am your girl, your host, Cece, and I'm joined by the one and only Babe. What's going on?
Hey everybody, this is Will, and thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time tuning into our podcast, this is a weekly podcast where we bring you inspiring, relatable, and relevant content every Saturday.
Yes, that's right. Listen, can't wait to get into the Blissful Moment, though.
Absolutely. Now, as always, before we get into today's topic, we like to share our Blissful Moment. Now, that is either something that we did or something that happened to us.
You're looking at me. So, babe, what's your blissful moment?
What's my blissful moment?
Well, I'll tell you my blissful moment. Although it was a long conversation, it was Tuesday night. You know, the girls, we were all on the dining room table while eating dinner, having some kind of a grown-up conversation. The kids were involved, and they were like so really deep into it. I think it's so important for you to get your child, you know, into some kind of what's going on in the world. And our girls was really into it. And I felt like, and I kind of feel like, you know, it was such a great moment.
Felt like a proud mom?
Yeah, and a proud dad too, because you were, here's the thing. I asked each one of the girls questions about what was going on, and then they each one give me their opinion. Of course, the little one was like, well, because this. She didn't give me like, you know, a very solid answer. She kind of gave me like her little girl. Yeah, she gave me what she knows, more like, okay. But the point is just that us sitting together, eating dinner, and having that discussion was so blissful to me, because seeing our girls talking about this and wanting to know more, because they ask you quite a bit of questions, and I know you were there, you know, saying certain words that they're like, oh, daddy, you're not supposed to say that on the table. But yes, I feel like that was very
well. It's good to get the kids engaged in current events. Like, and what we're talking about is the elections. We asked the kids what they've heard, what they thought, and give them a chance to really display their understanding of what's going on, and kind of shared with them why this is so important,
right?
Why so and so is this, why so and so is that, just to make sure that they're in the know,
right?
Because kids, I mean, sometimes they hear people panicking about things, they have no idea. And I'll tell you, if they're listening to one side, they will think that that's the only side that exists.
Correct.
It's good to start balancing the kids early on.
Yes.
You hear this, but there's also that side.
Correct.
And you have to learn to understand what's really going on, not what you're just being told.
Yeah, and not what I want you to hear too, because you know sometimes parents may want them to hear, this is what I want you to be, this is the good side.
Yeah,
right?
You know, that's one thing we avoid saying here. Yeah. This is so because I said so. And we went on record. We go into details as to why that is, not just because I said so. We all know that there's no such thing.
Yeah.
This is this because I said so. So yeah, but it was good.
It was great.
Yeah. So hey, listen, that was our blissful moment, and we were really proud that I'm proud that I had this conversation. So today we're diving into a super important topic: how to grow together in your relationship and not apart.
That's right.
It's something a lot of couples deals with, especially with everything that's happening in our life these days. I mean, life gets complicated. Like you be saying, life be lifing.
Life be lifing.
You know, we're hoping this episode can be relatable to some of you guys, inspiring in some ways, I'm hoping.
That's right.
And maybe something that you can apply to your own relationship right away.
That's right.
It's important that we stick together and we grow together.
Yes, listen, I am so excited about today's topic because, like you said earlier, staying close in a relationship takes a lot of work.
It does.
It takes a lot of work, and I feel like we've had some of that experience, right?
You can tell.
We've had quite a bit of those experience.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, Buddha once says, if you like a flower, you pick it. If you love a flower, you water it.
Okay.
You know, I cannot think of a better analogy to use when it comes to relationship. To see your relationship grow and blossom, you must give the relationship what it needs.
Yes.
And what it needs most is communication.
Yes, communication. And
you got to talk to your people.
Listen, you got to talk to your people. And you got to remember that growing together is more about understanding each other's, goals, needs, dreams. To me, I feel like it's about supporting each other's personal growth while building and sharing, that vision for a better future. Because we gotta have that. We gotta have, it's beyond goals and dreams. I always tell my husband, listen, we're gonna have this talk and we're going to have that, and it's gonna take some time. Okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time.
And the support is key. You gotta be supported.
Yes, because your growth is different than mine. And I have to support what you have going on, and vice versa. You got to support what I have going on too.
Yeah, that's why she makes me work Saturdays.
I don't.
And Linda, a lot of people don't realize, because life is constantly changing. We're constantly evolving.
That's right.
And so should our relationship. Yes. We can't expect our relationship to stay the way it was 10 years ago. It'll change, and we have to think with it. You might think that everything's fine, but if you're not actually growing with your partner, that's where the disconnection starts happening.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Don't ever assume things are fine.
Yeah.
Ask, pay attention.
Yes.
And you can learn a lot just by paying attention to little things that are happening in your relationship.
Right.
Because sometimes I know we can get so busy with life and we miss on things, and I do my best not to. And you guys know it. Sis has been on me for those date nights, and I am getting better and better at it.
No comments.
I am getting better at it. Those are things you got to pay attention to, because before you know it, you find that what's important to her is not being taken care of, and what's important to you is not being done. And 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, you find that now you have nothing in common, and you can't stand each other's guts.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in life.
Yeah.
In the works and the kids and the bills and the chaos of this modern life that we live in. Sometimes I wonder, if we were in the jungle, would we be dealing with this stuff? And that's when people start living that parallel lives instead of growing together.
Right.
It's important to stay connected.
Absolutely.
A relationship that's growing together is one where both partners are nurturing their individual growth, because you can never forget about you individually.
Right.
But also keep doing the things that helps the relationship move along.
That's right.
So it's finding the balance between the two. You can't do one without doing the other, because the relationship is important, but my individual growth is important as well. And how do we work on both?
Right.
And this is where you supporting me supporting you, and supporting the relationship really comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you stop doing those things, it can start to feel like you're living in two separate worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You absolutely are. And I think it's so important to note that growth doesn't mean, changing who you are for your partner, right? You have to understand it's about evolving together. Like you mentioned earlier, you have to, as you both become better versions of yourselves. Because I always said to me that I want to be the better version for you. Like me 10 years ago is not me today.
You are right.
You 10 years ago is you today. I'm just kidding. You 10 years ago is not you today.
Well, I was good 10 years ago.
You were good 10 years ago. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And we have to keep that in mind. Yes. And I think, it's also about staying aligned with your shared goals.
Okay.
Right? Which we talked about earlier.
It's also about staying aligned with your shared goals, your dreams, and your values. When you're in sync,
yes,
everything falls in place so easily.
That's right.
As opposed to when things are flying all over the place.
Yes.
So how do you know when you're not growing together?
Well, as far as for me, one sign for me is when we stop having those deep conversations.
Man, I'll tell you, even if I didn't want to have those conversations, I have no choice. I'm gonna get pulled into it.
I have my reasons, okay? I have my reason. When we have these deep conversations, it makes me feel like we're on the same page. We are, in deep thoughts. We in this together. Or maybe And I think it's so important to have these talk. Yes, I understand men sometimes they run away from having these talk because they don't want to have these talk, right?
Sometimes they're too long.
Maybe because I have a whole lot of stuff to say that's been building in there. But you marry me for those reasons. You marry me for those reasons. You marry me for having these conversations.
Yes.
And remember, we weren't having these talk early on in our marriage.
I know.
This is what I'm saying. People change, people grow. So therefore having these talk could be talk that's been building for the last 5-10 years.
I think as we get older, our thought process changes, which means our conversation changes.
Correct.
And that's part of the evolution that we experience in a relationship, and as people as well. Mm-hmm. Listen, the way I speak right now, I didn't speak that way. There are some thoughts that I have now that I didn't have. There's certain things that worries me now that they didn't used to worry me.
True.
But you're right. When you stop having those deep conversations where you're focusing on what's going to happen tomorrow, how do you want the future to look, what projects are we working on? When you stop having these conversations, that means your goals are no longer aligned. Mm-hmm. And these are red flags.
True. And if you feel like, your relationship is stagnant, it's not moving, what do? You got to seek help. Maybe
absolutely.
time for you to check in with each other. Like my husband and I would do our checking.
Oh, we do more than just check in.
We do.
Yes.
We do more than just
and it's important. I mean, yes, we check to see how each other's doing and what's happening with us. We all up in each other's business. In fact, we married to each other. Why not?
Yes. And I want to say this. Although the woman is always the one that wants to have these conversations. Come on now. Let's go, somebody, right? Mm-hmm. However, I think it's also important for the men sometimes to say, you know what, babe, I just want to talk. Let's have this conversation that I was thinking about this XYZ, right? About how to grow, whether if it's business, whether if it's personal, whether if it's, family.
I agree.
It is important. But a lot of times it's always us that wants to have these talks.
I agree. Not that I'm doing it now, but yes, she's usually the one initiating the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm actually telling you that the next time you're the one that just all the conversation.
Points taken, and I understand.
Okay.
I got to start initiating this conversation.
Received,
now, another sign, yes, I received the message.
Okay, good.
Another sign is when you stop supporting each other's dream or personal growth.
Yeah.
You can't just put your partner's dream on hold for the sake of your own.
Right.
It's all about, and as I said earlier, it's all about finding that balance where you can work on your stuff, but also be supportive of their stuff as well. And they'll do the same thing for you, work on their stuff and be supportive of yours.
That's right.
Because that's how you make sure that as you grow the relationship, that you're actually growing yourself.
Yeah.
That's why when Cece wants to talk, that allow her to articulate her thoughts and so forth, I sat there and listened.
Yeah.
And she talks and I learned something.
Yes. There's when you are sitting there and listen to the conversation, or then when you just do you just there. There's a difference between.
I listen.
Okay.
I must say I listen.
Active listening. Okay. Because you have to be participating as well. Because one thing about my husband when he does is if I'm talking about something and he doesn't respond, I know he's not listening. I want you to be a part.
I'm listening so deeply that I'm processing the things as I listen.
I doubt it, babe. I think you just want me to be done so you can go move on.
But here's the thing. There are conversations we have. I get it. And I get it. And sometimes I don't have to give a response.
But I want you to give me a response. I like when we have talk and we conversate with each other.
Yes, there are times we do, but there are times that I just sat there and listened.
But there's time where I am waiting for a response. I'm not gonna lie. There's time when we have a conversation and I'm like, okay, baby, how do you feel? I gotta ask a question without you giving your
I've gotten so good at listening that I've learned not to interrupt.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
But yes, there's been cases where I just sat and listened, and I may have chosen not to give a response because I got it.
I'm a woman who likes to conversate. Yes, I am going to talk. I'm going to speak what's on my mind, and I'm going to finish what's on my mind. Yes, I like for us when we're talking, it's important to me for us to Yes, open conversation and ending conversation, which is so important. You got to have a conclusion. What are we doing next? We got to have a conclusion. If we don't conclude on what we just discussed, then how are we moving forward? What's the big... baby, you know me. Mm-hmm. I want to know what are we moving forward? What are we doing after that?
Yeah, next step is important.
Yeah, if we just have a talk and then we just have nothing else afterwards, then it just happens to be a talk. And I like to keep it on the subject of what we're talking, because my husband is the one where he likes to go from A, B, C, D. And then I'm like, babe, let's go back to A, because A is important to me.
And that's why sometimes I sat and listened, because I may interject something that may be off subject, but it's important. And it's important to have those conversations. Now, pay attention. Yeah. Yes. Cece sometimes thinks that I sit there and don't respond. I'm listening.
I can read your body.
I listen.
I can read your
Maybe I got the point within the first 2 minutes, but I listen. But it's important. It's important to set time aside so you can have this conversation with your partner. Another big one is resentment.
Oof.
If you're holding on to grudges and not communicating openly, it builds up. It does. And that builds up walls between you. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't go together if you're not actively working through your issues. Mm-hmm. And I say that, I know there's something way early on that we had dealt with is, I know we have feelings, and I know sometimes things could, gets in our emotions and so forth. But when that does, it's not like saying, yeah, I'm fine, and then you look like you're not fine. No, if something bothers you, it bothers you, and deal with it right then and there, and then carry on. Mm-hmm. If it's something that shouldn't be done again, or if someone screwed up, admit that, okay, I screwed up.
Yeah.
Now I know what the expectation is. I won't do it again. But don't just hold it in. Because that's how that wall starts building up inside of you. And before you know it, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I remember early on in our marriage, that's something I used to do a lot. Mm-hmm. I was very immature about that. Mm-hmm. And I was learning me, and I was learning us at the same time.
Yes.
And I think it's so important it's true, to not holding it in. Because I don't know for you guys if you do that, but I know for us ladies, we tend to hold stuff in. I know let me speak for myself, that I know that it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. So I learned not to hold things in anymore. This is why this man can't stop me from talking anymore.
Yes. It's like I opened the floodgate,
You sure did. You opened the floodgate. So therefore, I got to speak my mind, because you got me.
Hey, let's get it. Listen, we've had less issues trying to figure out what's wrong with you, because now you speak it out.
What's wrong with me? And he knows, and you know me pretty well now. Well, of course, 15 years soon, almost 20 years. You know me pretty well for you to know when there's something wrong with me. She's got
problems going on with her.
Okay, I told you it was a powerful baby. So anyways, I know.
Couples also stop going together when they don't prioritize quality time together.
Yeah, what now?
When they do not prioritize quality times together.
Did y'all hear that?
Listen, life gets busy, but making time for each other should not be something that we neglect, right?
Yeah.
It's important to set the time, schedule it. If something happened, reschedule it. It's important.
We've been rescheduling. We've been doing this since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but you're failing to acknowledge, is it last month or early last month? We made sure that, and then we have something planned for this month. Nothing is perfect. And if we only see those that don't, we'll never see those that does. But it's important to prioritize the time that we spend with each other. Now, we may not have, and I'll say it again, and you guys probably heard me, we may have missed a few of those dates. Well, not just a few, several. But we are with each other. Maybe not in the capacity that we expected to be in, but we are. In those conversations we have, we may not be having them sitting where we're having dinner, but we still talk to each other. So we don't neglect each other in the process, but we know that there's certain things that's important that we still do. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that anyone, because listen, I'd like to tell you that things will be perfect and you'll be able to get everything exactly the way you want it. And I'll tell you, if that's how you plan on operating, you are in for major disappointment. You got to be able to be flexible. So life does get busy, and believe it or not, it'll continue to get busy, but you gotta know what's priority. Yeah. And sometimes you gotta learn to not be busy and do the things that's important to you and your partner. Yeah. So, it's essential.
Yes.
That you together physically and emotionally as well.
Right.
Because that emotional support is important.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself being distant from your partner, that's a huge sign that you need to refocus. Get rid of some of those things that are keeping you busy. Maybe delegate them to someone else, or maybe just postpone them to a later date and take that hour, that 2 hour there to spend some time with your partner. That's important.
That is important. It's funny you mentioned that, because I remember I was having this talk with my sister-in-law. She's like, well, Cece and her husband,
they be busy.
They be busy. These are the two busy bodies. And yeah, we be busy. And we do owe them like a date night, because they've been asking. Yes. And sometimes you gotta like pull back and say, you know what? Yeah, we too busy, or we got too much going on our calendar.
I got you.
Even though sometimes, when it comes to date night, sometimes be like, babe, listen, my client wants to go see something and I gotta go, and I am guilty too. I'm not gonna put it all on him. Right. And yes, we be together. Right? Sometimes he's at work and I have to do what I got to do, drop the kids to my mother, and then do what I have to do for my clients. Right? But most of the times we are together on a Saturday that we're supposed to go on a date. Yeah. We are on a date, but it's on a date with the client as well included. But it's just sometimes, like I said earlier, yes, and I feel like I do owe my brother and my sister-in-law like a date night, because they've been asking since the beginning of the year, and I'm like, wait, it's November already? And we haven't had that time, so we're going to make it a priority this month or next month. It's funny when I asked her, what your schedule look like next month? She laughed. I said, what your schedule look like next month? And she laughed. She's like, really, Cece? I'm like, listen, okay, my bad. Because I'm a calendar girl. If it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. That's just how I am. And sometimes it's on the calendar. I overbooked, right?
I know.
I mean, listen, I'm so sorry, but I apologize. Okay, let's now that we talked about how to recognize the signs, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to turn things around, which is so important, right?
Yeah, it is important. I mean, if you've identified a problem, how do you fix it?
Yes. And it's never too late.
No.
It's never too late to start working on growing together. We talk about this a lot in the podcast. Communication is the key to everything, right? We need to talk. Like when I tell my husband we need to talk, like we need to talk. And he knows what I mean by when I say we need to talk.
Oh, yes.
We need to talk about what we want individually, right? We need to talk about what we need from the relationship. We need to talk about where are we going? What are we doing? Are we growing, or are we just staying the same? And I think sometimes I want you to don't assume that your partner knows what's going on in your mind. I know that's one thing my husband tells me all the time. I gotta speak what's in my mind, because he's not a mind reader. He told me this all the time, but sometimes I'm like, baby, we've been together for such a long time. You gotta get me by now. But I kept failing every time. I'm like, you gotta read my mind.
Thank you for admitting that.
I am. And I know you're not a mind reader. And I think it's important for us ladies to just like say what's in our mind, because they are not a mind reader, because they're not. We may get them, but they don't get us.
We're simple. You know, there's no figuring us out. We out in the open.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So thank you for admitting that.
Of course, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. You've got to be intentional about what you do. You have to. If you want to grow together, you both need to make time for each other.
Right.
We talk a lot about, creating the time earlier.
Yes.
Whether that's a date night, that's the morning coffee together. She would appreciate that. Or just a quiet walk in the evening. It's about nurturing both your individual life and your relationship, and taking time
Yes.
And spending time with each other.
Yes.
Helps you do that.
Absolutely. And we talked about this earlier, and make sure that you support each other, which is so important. Support each other's personal growth is so important. Here in this household, we celebrate every wins. We celebrate whether it's small, big, whatever it's a closing that I had with the clients that, on a leasing apartment or a closing in a house or whatever it is, we going to celebrate. What if it's a milestone? We're going to celebrate, okay? Yeah. And we encourage, and you have to encourage your partner. You have to encourage your partner to step outside of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Baby.
She's talking to me.
I'm talking to you right now.
She is talking to me.
My husband is tired of hearing me telling him, step outside of your comfort zone.
She's talking to me.
I am.
Yeah. So, but yes, it's good to encourage your partner to do things that they don't normally do.
Yes.
And yes, eventually she's going to get me out.
Listen, it's going to happen slowly but surely. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, and we're getting there.
Yeah. And that's a great point. One thing I want to add is that conflict is normal.
Yeah.
If you find yourself disagreeing, it's normal.
Right.
We got to learn not to see disagreement as a sign of failure. Couple disagrees. Cece and I, we don't always see eye to eye on things. I don't think we're failing. I think we are learning and we're growing. Because if she's doing the wrong thing and I just agreed to the wrong thing, then we will both fail. But if I disagree and says, no, that's not the best way to do this, then I'm saving the relationship. So it's okay to disagree. I think we need to see those disagreements as opportunities to grow closer, opportunity to learn more about each other, and opportunity to do things
together as a teamwork.
So when you disagree, you're not failing.
Right.
You're just learning.
That's right.
And believe me, I'd rather learn every day than failing at this.
Amen.
So welcome the disagreement. Now do it in a respectful way. Do it in a way where you're not hurting your partner. And if you're going to disagree, provide alternatives.
Yeah.
Not just disagreeing and that's okay, what do you think now that you disagree? You have no idea. No. If you're going to disagree, come up with something, right? And that helps you really, really, really work at things to make sure that whatever decision you make at the end is the best one that benefits both you, your partner, and the relationship.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's so important to check in from time to time just to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
So, I mean, we talk about a lot of hypothetical stuff, but let's bring this to life by sharing some of our real life examples. I think we should be
you and I, we have gone through our own struggles.
Yeah, we've had our problems.
We've had our problems. There was time when we felt very disconnected.
Yeah, well,
very.
It's happened. I know we weren't making time for each other. Way past. I mean, we were both working, and the little bit of time we have, it's picking up the kids here and there. Yes, we had that time.
We did.
We had moments where I leave early and I get home late, and she's so. And we had those time, and when you have times like this, you tend to argue more than usual. So, as we were going through this, I mean, we realized that there's a lot of things we weren't doing.
Right.
Like right now, we're in a position where we can have those long conversations that CC wants to have at any given point because our life is structured in a way that allows us to do that.
Right.
But there used to be a time between dropping off the kids, picking up the kids, getting home and try to get dinner ready, all that stuff. We find that for some time, I think it was like months and months.
Yeah.
We weren't getting there. And I know there was that one time Cece's job was like really tormenting her, which even took a toll on us as well.
Yeah.
So we had our moments, but through it all, we didn't forget why we were into this.
Right.
And as we realized, you know what, something was off, we slowly take us back. Now, when things like this happens, this is when that communication we mentioned earlier is key.
Yeah.
Bring up what we think the issue is and bring up the things that are not happening. Cece's the type of person that if something is not how she expected, she's like her mom. She just say it. And sometimes she say it with emotions as well. Now, I'm the type that you say it, I listen, and then we'll have a conversation. You're the type
like my dad.
Listen, I don't get offended
Yeah.
If Sissy, because I know that whatever she says, there's always some good intention behind it. So yeah, she'll just lay it out.
Yeah.
You see how she gets on me for missing those date nights?
Yeah.
That's how she'll just, you think you're doing it? No.
It's important, so you gotta hear it. You know, sometimes you need to stop babying your man, girl. They grown. They can handle it.
When you're in a relationship, you're a grown person. You have kids. You have gray beard. There's
Yours is just stylish. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yours is not real.
You know, when you're at that level, there's certain things you need to be able to take them and deal with them in the best way you could. And see him not as an attack. I know some people, one of the biggest problems they run into, someone tell them something that's not so, they think you're attacking them. It's not an attack. And I tell you many times, whatever is said, it's always true. It's just that we're not willing to admit that we have issues that we need to work on. Listen, I know that I'm not perfect and I know I have problems. So if something's brought up to me, I'm going to look at it. And if I need to make some changes, I would. It's going to take me some time to make some changes. I apologize in advance while I change my habits. But at the end of the day, I know that, hey, if something's brought up to me, maybe I really need to look at myself and fix it.
Right.
So we at that level here. And, you know, even when things are tough, you know, we do our best to remind ourselves why we in this.
Right.
Why we're together.
Yes.
And this is one thing that helps me deal with when Cece brings stuff up. And no, hey, listen, she's my wife. She still loves me. If she says this, it's because she saw something and she wants it addressed. And we in this no matter what. And I know probably after this podcast, she's probably going to bring up something and I'll deal with it. Because we're in this for the long haul, not for the time right now. No, we made the commitment to go through this together.
Right.
And this is anyone who's in a relationship, you have to make sure that you know why you in this.
Yeah.
Because you will run into those moments where you find that maybe you're not spending enough time with each other. Yeah. Maybe you're not having those deep conversations.
Yeah.
Maybe your goals are not aligned. This is when you got to take a step back and bring things back together.
Okay. And sometimes, you know, there's kids involved, especially if you have little ones. You probably going to feel stressed and overwhelmed because you probably, as we always know, we know the mother sometimes tends to go through this more than the husband. I mean, it's very obvious, right? If you as the husband see your wife going through so much, pull her aside. You know, pull her aside and says, hey, babe, I know you've been working to take care of the kids or the family. And how you doing? How you feeling? Like having these deep conversations, because sometimes it's needed. You may not think your wife needs these talk. They do need it. Because women, we like to have these conversations. And we want you to know how we feel, right? Because we love and trust you, knowing that you're going to be there and support us. Have a way. You have to really put the time while the kids are in bed or the kids are in school. You and your wife got to have this talk. It's not all about the man. It's not all about you. Just do what you got to do and go to work, come home and sleep. And the wife is doing all the work. You have to understand she needs that moment with you. It is important.
Listen, I keep learning on this.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I made that commitment to massage your feet every night. I missed a couple of nights, but I've gotten most of them.
Yeah.
I've tried to have some conversation and she falls asleep.
Oh, yeah, I'll be out. Listen, he made a promise. He made a promise in our anniversary. This was February. And he missed some days here and there. But I'll be like, baby, remember you didn't massage me last night. You know, I'll bring that up. But it's if he missed a day or two, because I know sometimes he gets sleepy,
but man, I just can't skip it, you know.
And it makes me happy because you know when your husband made a promise and said, you know, I have a promise to give you a foot massage every night.
I think my fingers are like very strong now.
Yeah, they
don't hurt anymore.
And you know what too? You don't have this problem anymore. You used to have this pain on your wrist. You don't have that anymore.
Her foot massage fixed my wrist.
See, there you go.
I know.
But yeah, it's important. If you made a commitment to your spouse, if you made a commitment to your spouse and said, you know what, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, you gotta be a man and, you know, man up and do it.
Yeah. It's important. And listen, let me say this. Relationship, it's a journey.
It sure is.
It's not a destination. There's not a moment in our life we're gonna get there like, okay, we're there. Yeah. We've arrived. We don't have to know. The idea that you just arrive, it's and everything stays the same. That's a myth.
Sure is.
It doesn't exist.
It sure is.
If you want your relationship to thrive, to grow,
yes,
it has to be an ongoing process of learning. Now, I'm sure she'll probably want me to make another commitment for next year.
Of course.
And if she's keep enjoying the massage, then I'll probably just renew that commitment.
Oh, you just add to it.
I don't know about adding to it. But, it's an ongoing process of learning and growing and evolving with each other. It won't be easy, but if you're committed to that journey, your relationship will become stronger, more meaningful, and more fulfilling.
That's right.
So if you feel disconnected right now, don't panic. Use it as a moment to refocus.
That's true.
Look back and say, okay, what am I not doing?
Right.
And how can I reconnect? And how can I do things with my partner to continue that growth?
Yeah.
And I know you've got this. Because we've had our moments and we've managed to refocus and take it back. Hence, that's why we're here having this conversation with you. Yeah. And remember, it's not about growing apart. It's about choosing to grow together. Remember, what we do in this life is a choice.
Yes.
If Cece says something here and I get pissed off, I'm choosing to get pissed off. All kidding aside, I'm choosing to get upset. I can make a different choice.
Yes.
And as you make those choices, remember why you're making it. It's because you want to make sure that you continue to grow with your partner. Okay. So we thank you guys for joining us today on the Blissology Podcast. We hope this episode inspire you to take a closer look at how you're growing in your relationship.
Yes.
And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And as always, if you enjoyed today's podcast, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Drop us a comment below and tell us how you and your partner are growing together.
Yes.
Until next time, take care of whoever you are with.
Each other.
And remember to grow together.
That's right.
Peace.
Bye.